If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others. I'm Nina Aubert, your leadership liaison, the link between where your influence is and where you want it to be. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the 7 ways you can network to gain your net worth. But first, I want to tell you about some typical networkers that are still out there. And I don't need to know whether or not this is you. I just need you to listen. So, are you a serial networker? Do you just love going to all the networking events? You know everything about them, but your whole point is just to go and have the food and try the drinks, that kind of stuff. That's a serial networker. Or maybe you're a card bomber. You just walk up to people and right away all you do is put your card in their face and walk away. That is a card bomber. Or are you a hoarder? This is the person who loves the card bomber. They take all their cards because they love to hoard them and love to look at them and see how pretty they are. Or are you a glory days washout? Are you the type of networker that hasn't moved on into the next century? You keep going back to the same people over and over again, not willing to meet new people? These are just some examples of different types of networkers that are out there. And today, what I want to talk about is a different way to do networking. So I'm going to talk about the 7 ways that you can network to gain your net worth. First and foremost, I would like you to be natural. So what do I mean by that? I mean that I want to get to know you the person, not you, your product or your service. So it's so important to do the work and find out who you truly are. What are your character traits? Would people know them by meeting you? Also, I want you to be natural when you're starting conversations. The immediate sale of a product or service is not the goal of networking. Now, when I'm talking about networking, just to give you a little background, I'm talking about those face-to-face events that we're at. What I do, I'm a thought leader, a speaker, and a coach in human communication. I believe it's become a lost art. So it is my mission to make sure that we are communicating face-to-face and really listening to people. So be natural. Who are you? Take the time to figure it out. And when you start a conversation, again, these don't have to be well thought out questions, but get a conversation going. Start by building a relationship. The truth is, people do work with people they know, like, and trust. The second way that you can network to gain your net worth is the actual event. Are you picking the right events to go to? How do you know it's the right event? You got to try them out. You can't be a one-timer. I forgot to tell you about that person. That's the one who just goes to the event once and says, it wasn't successful. It's not going to be. You have to put in the time. So pick the right event. And it can be as easy as going on Google or Meetup or anything like that. And when you're at the event, how are you, again, working with the other people? The next way I want you to consider is to teach, don't sell. Here we go again. I might repeat myself because I really only have some simple concepts, but I believe it's in the simple that we are successful. So teach, don't sell. Teach, again, teach who you are. What do you value? What are you passionate about? Teach other people about that. Not necessarily about your product or your service, but how it connects with something more. You may end up leaving your company. You may end up having a different product or a service. If you network this way, where you're leading with you and not your product or your service, there's a good chance that these people will do work with you in your next company. I actually had that happen to me. So So it does work. Willing to give, not get. I truly love this concept, and I believe it's in the generosity that we will find success. So are you willing to give and not expect anything in return? What we mean by this is, are you willing to give some information? Are you willing to educate people? It doesn't always have to be, again, some type of product, but what are you willing to give? Are you willing to give of yourself at the event? I think a great way to be at a networking event is to actually volunteer at the event. At our local Chamber of Commerce, the ambassadors, they wear this yellow scarf and they stand out and they were just telling us, an extra 8 to 10 hours a month where they help out at these events. But guess what? Everybody's speaking to them and everybody knows them. And they're probably getting business from it. So willing to give, not get. How will you do that? I want you to think about it. I want you to put pen to paper and make a plan. The next way that you can network to gain your net worth is to ask open-ended questions. This is where I usually get really, really excited because human communication is my mission. So it's important that you have, some open-ended questions that you could start with. But really, the whole point is once you ask a question is to listen. Because the golden rule of communication is to make the other person feel valued. So it's so important when you do ask these open-ended questions that you then stop and you actually listen. You know what? All the answers to everything you need is in that other person. So if you would just stop and listen, you'd be set. One of the rules of listening is actually to listen 90% of the time and only talk 10% of the time. So get good at asking open-ended questions and make sure you're listening for the answers. The next way is to be ready. Now, I didn't tell you about this other type of networker. They're called the director. And they go into networking events where they have plotted out every conversation they're going to have, and they, are very focused on who they're going to talk to, and it seems staged. That's not what I mean by being ready. Now, being ready could mean that you do have an idea of, you want to maybe make 3 quality contacts. Maybe you know what type of people you want to meet. But never disregard a conversation, because the person you're talking to may not be your ideal client, but maybe they know your ideal client. So that's what I mean by being ready. What you're also going to be ready with is getting a little more in depth on what you do, why you do it, for whom you do it, and what makes working with you so unique. So again, it is so important that you do this work. Put pen to paper. I know I've already repeated that at least 3 times. You know why? There's actually scientific proof. When you take a regular pen and a regular piece of paper and you actually write out what's going on in your thoughts and your ideas, there's a connection with your brain. So make the time and be ready. And then last but not least, keep in touch. This is the most unbelievable statistic you're going to hear today. Showing up at a networking event, well, that's easy. But following up, not so much. Only 2% of the people are making the follow-up. I can't even believe it in the type of economy that we're in, that everybody is not making follow-up. Phone calls, emails, texts, whatever it is. You do need to have a system and you need to be consistent. So these are just some of the ways that I recommend that you do to network to gain net worth. Remember, these are face-to-face networking events. And what I'm recommending is that you're natural, that you pick the right events, that you teach, don't sell, that you're willing to give and not get, that you will ask open-ended questions. You will always be ready, and you are going to keep in touch. I would love to know your thoughts. So be sure to join us on our Facebook page at facebook.com Leadership Liaison. Go over to my website at ninaobear.com or just email me back at info@ninaobear.com. And I want you to go make it a fabulous day.